By the fire, the water, the wind, and the sweet earth, I invoke thee, O muse. Showdown at sunrise. Darkest before pre-dawn, three partners stood on a bald mountain, their hands clasped in a three-way promise, their faces illuminated by lightning strike. Dancer, flicker, and hum were their names. The last time they had clasped hands, they had called themselves the archer, the beast, and the female man. They had gathered because there had been a sighting of the blue man. He had been seen striding with his staff through the mountains bordering the desert, and they made haste because in one night the blue man has been known to walk the whole world round. They cast about to be certain that the lame one was nowhere to be found. Hum was the first to spring his trap. In the cleft of an ash, the bees, his minions, a mound of honey made, and with the late spring rain, the water poured down across the leaves, dripped down the trunk, and flowed slowly into the cleft. And there the water and honey mixed in ancient alchemical proportion. The first bubble announced the ferment and began to fizz in a slow, ecstatic boil and became the finest honey wine. And the honeyed wine became honeyed rain, and the world became an earthquake of intoxication. And the bees came in endless waves, darkening the new dawn sun, and formed a giant whirlwind around Hum, who became as big as a mountain. And the insects became his teeth, nails, and hair, and the mountainous Hum spied in the forest below the blue man standing, roared his triumph, and became a giant fist prepared to smash when a blue hand opened to display a single queen bee, who sweetly flew off over the horizon, drawing with her legions of bees, collapsing the whirlwind, leaving Hum exhausted and spent on the ground. Then it was Dancer the archer's turn, and he grew glorious in the new dawn sun, and he was suddenly clad in golden armor, was driving a golden chariot pulled by golden horses as bright as the sun, whose very breath was fire. And from his chariot Dancer pulled a lyre and struck a single note, which grew into a thunderous chord, vibrated and shook the very earth. Then Dancer pulled from across his back his bow, strung it in one quick motion, and with lightning speed grasped an arrow and let it fly at the blue man. Well, nothing in Olympias or Elysium could withstand that bolt. Yet there was a brief shadow. As a giant goose flapped across the face of the incoming sun, eclipsing it for a brief second. And in that second, a man with a robber's mask, clad in green in the forest, also released his shaft at the same time. And the shaft of green met the shaft of gold, and both disappeared. And while Dancer fumbled for a second arrow, the green man launched his second missile, catching the archer in the chest, exploding him across the morning sky. Flicker's eyes flashed as he bolted into action. "You will not have such an easy time with me," he said, "for you have made me to be your herald." And it became dark again, and then light, and the eyes dazzled, and the senses reeled. "Your staff may not strike me, for I am quicksilver." And Flicker became a glimmer, then a shimmer, then a flare. And where once Blue Man stood, now 9 stood there. "Can you tell me from yourself?" The blue man swung his staff, striking himself and reeling. "I am your brightest light, even your eyes will dazzle." Flicker shined, and the blue man could see no more. He dropped his staff and cast about in his mind's darkness. And Flicker shrieked in triumph and prepared his death blow and raised his sword, when Flicker noticed the blue man and the lame one standing off to the side, laughing and nudging each other. Flicker shrieked and turned towards his prey, which he now realized was nothing more than a giant mirror, and before he could turn, the blue man had him in his grasp. "Father, why?" cried Flicker as the blue man grabbed him by the neck, plunged him deep beneath the soil into the ground amongst the geological strata. "Because you have become Titan," said the blue man, "and you have begun to eat the young." And leaning on the green man and the lame one, the blue man took up his staff and stood there, enjoying the new morning sun. And somewhere, in the cleft of an ash, a queen had settled. The bees her minions, a mound of honey made, awaiting the late spring rain. And the blue man shed a bitter tear and sighed, "Oh, Titania,